Hi, my name is Devin Wong, and I am joined by Kunal. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay. So let's start things off. What do you do, and how would you describe to someone outside of your field?
Yeah, okay. So I work in software consulting, more specifically ERP consulting. So ERP is like basically accounting software. So I work for a company called Bryant Park Consulting, where we do ERP implementations. My role there is I'm the director of technical services. So essentially, my team is the technical team. So they do all of the coding, the integrations for the project. And just a little bit of the project itself. It's the clients we work with are clients that are moving. They're changing accounting systems basically. So they're moving from like an older or like let's say QuickBooks, for example, which is like maybe a small business type of accounting system. They're moving up to NetSuite, which is what I implement. It's an Oracle product. We help them with that transition. So we train them, we customize their account, we map out the business processes, and then we basically move them over to the new accounting system.
And you mentioned Oracle. So what exactly does that software or that kind of provide for you?
Okay, so Oracle is a big software company. They have a lot of enterprise apps for businesses. So a lot of businesses run their whole business on Oracle apps. So Oracle owns this product called NetSuite, which is what I implement. Now my company is a partner of Oracle. So
Okay.
Oracle owns the software itself. We are the implementation partner. So we're the consulting partner that will help the client install the software.
Okay. And what does this software do for them? Is it like the accounting?
It's accounting software, exactly. So basically, in ERP, it's called Enterprise Resource Planning. That's the acronym. It People run their business on ERPs, right? So it does their accounting, it does their operations, does their finance, does their human resources, does their warehousing, does their input. Does basically run your whole business on NetSuite or an ERP. So it's important. Every company, every company needs accounting software. Every company needs a system to run their business on, and that's what the ERP is.
And does that software kind of like replace the traditional roles that the HR resource manager would do?
It wouldn't replace the role. It's more like just a tool for them to use to do their job more efficiently, right? So,
Okay.
like for HR, for example, like you can do payroll in NetSuite. You can do like an integration with payroll, but you can like manage the expenses of all your employees inside NetSuite. You can get your reports for your accountants. You can do inventory management, for example. There's lots of things you can do.
Okay. And what was the appeal to you of this position to you?
That's a good question.
Were you always just like really good with coding?
No, actually, no. My background's in math, actually.
Okay.
It was like the only subject I was good at in high school, so I just sort of stuck with that through college. So I did like coding. I didn't do much of it in university, but math and coding they go pretty hand in hand, like in terms of the skill set, like especially like critical thinking and breaking down problems into smaller problems and then creating a solution. So all of that was a part of it. There was no when I was a kid, like there was no I didn't know I was going to go into this really. Like I was trying to do more like a finance type role. So I did a math degree, which was specializing in finance. Then I realized, I graduated, and I'm like, I don't know if I like this too much, so I decided to venture more on the tech side and do more of that.
Okay. And then when did you realize that that's what you wanted to do?
Probably after I graduated. So, I was in university, I did my bachelor's. I graduated and it was kind of hard to find a job in finance that I wanted. So then I pivoted. I went to basically a postgraduate school to learn how to do web basically coding.
Okay.
So I knew how to code, but this one gave me more skills in that space. And I like that a lot. I like that coding, I like building apps, I like building websites. So from there, I translated it into this job directly at Oracle. So I used to work at Oracle.
Oh, nice.
I started as like an analyst there, and then that's when I got into this whole consulting side of it. So my first role was an analyst, just basically a junior developer as a consultant, and then made my way out from there.
And where did you get your bachelor's in?
Financial math.
Okay.
It's a math degree, but it's very heavily math, but they focus on the finance part of it. So think like predicting stock prices using math, or like
like algorithms, or
stuff like that, and using like probability and calculus to help predict like the market and stuff like that. So it's very math heavy with like finance sprinkled in there.
Okay. And how did that postgraduate school prepare you for your eventual job at your current company or even at Oracle?
It gave me the skills in coding to help me get like a tech job essentially, because it taught me the different coding languages. It taught me about database design, taught me like just overall algorithms and what's called lead coding, I guess. Taught me all about that, and also it was a 1-year program. It was very intense. So it was a 1-year intense program. They also had a good internship or co-op program as well. So once I did my 8 months of 2 terms of school, 2 semesters, I had a term which was an internship, which wasn't at Oracle. It was actually at my school. I was working in their almost like their database. It was a department that was managing the donors and the alumni and that database and reporting and BI stuff. That's what I started. It helped me learn the coding skills that I could complement with the knowledge I gained and the skills I gained from my math degree, which was critical thinking, breaking down things, thinking outside the box. So with that skills I had already, plus the actual technical skills, it really helped me combine to become like a developer.
Okay. And after Oracle, did you go to your current company?
No, I went to another company. It was a smaller company. They were a partner of Oracle's as well.
Okay.
So after Oracle, I went there. I was there for they're called Myers Holland, they're based in New York. I went there for about 2, maybe almost 3 years, I think. Then after that, I went independent. So I became a subcontractor. I started my own company. And then I was a subcontracting. I had a pretty decent network of people that I knew.
What is subcontracting?
Subcontracting, it's like you're an independent consultant essentially. So you don't work for a company, you find your own clients and then you bill them per hour for the work that you provide them. So since I have specialty in NetSuite and coding and all that, companies, and I knew I have a decent network. Companies would hire me to help support their NetSuite like software essentially. I would solve problems, I would create new apps for them in NetSuite, code for them. So I did that then for a couple of years, and then I went to my current company and went over there and then started leading the team here on the technical side.
Okay. And do you like look for candidates, or do you hire them? Are you involved in that process at all?
I am. So it's I go through the hiring. So the hierarchy of my company is I'm like the director, and I have 5 managers underneath me, and then all the developers go up to those managers. But I'm part of the hiring process for hiring new managers, hiring new developers, hiring new consultants. I'm all part of that process as well.
And what do you look like for in a candidate? Like, so say there's like 2 people applying for the same job, and aside from like technical expertise, what do you look for like in qualities of them?
I think the biggest thing I would look for is so in consulting, you can be a really smart developer and tech person and be super smart coding, But in consulting, you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with accountants, you're dealing with executives. They're not very technical, right? So what really differentiates someone is someone who can know the technical side, but break it down to someone who's non-technical and communicate that to them, explain it to them in a way that they understand.
Like communicate in English.
Communicate, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. So you're not like, because clients and executives, they don't like when
you don't like technical jargon.
Yeah, you're throwing all these terms out there, like I don't know what's going on, you're confusing me. They don't like that. No one likes to not felt understood, right? So someone who has the skill set, communicating effectively to other stakeholders is very important. That's what I look out more for, is communication in that sense.
And there's also like communication within like their own team or their own like coding group. Does that also matter? Like how they treat coworkers?
For sure, culture is a big thing in a company. If someone can be the smartest person in the world and super hardworking, but if they're not going to fit well with the team, just due to like culture misfit, or you can just sense that maybe they're not like as much of a team player as I like, then that would I wouldn't pursue them. I wouldn't hire them. So that's something very important that I also look for in a candidate, is are they a good culture fit at Bryant Park?
All right, so that's like a big deal breaker.
It is, for sure. It's important, to get along with the people you work with and your coworkers, your colleagues, your managers, or your people who report to you. It's very important you get along with each other. It just makes it a lot more pleasant of a workspace.
Okay. And if you, it's like, what, and along your time at the workforce, like what were some impactful like habits that you picked up that really helped you like maybe accomplish tasks or just stay productive and efficient?
Impactful habits, I would say, I think the biggest, so I think listening and understanding the client is very important in my work. So as a consultant, clients are paying us a lot of money to do some work for them, right?
Yeah.
And it's important that you listen to them and understand like what they're trying to say to you, or if they're trying to get their point across, or just being like someone who can just listen to them vent for a little bit and just understand where they're coming from. I think that's very important. So that's where that's what I've learned is listen to them, hear what they're saying, walk them through certain things, walk them through whatever the next step is in the process, and just understanding it. That's one big thing. Another thing, so in my field of work, documentation is very important for us. So let's say we're building out this whole big app or module or whatever, and making sure that our documentation is on point is so important, so that the next person who takes over knows what's going on with what you're building. So let's say you're building an app and you just code away, and you deliver it. The next person that's taking over, they look at it like, what the heck am I looking at? I don't understand what this is. I don't understand what the business requirements are. So documentation is also something very important, especially in the tech side. So when you do deliver something, you deliver the documentation with it, so someone can understand why this was built, what it's doing, why it's built the way it was, and then they can really take over from there.
Mm-hmm. And are there a lot of like big deadlines in your like career? Like, would there be like a big deadline where you have to get this app or this module finished before like 10 p.m. this night, or like is it like do you have like long-term projects, or are these like more short-term?
They're a mix of both, mostly long-term, but there's always deadlines, right? Within a project, you have milestones throughout a project. So your project starts, and let's say the end of the project is like 6 months down the road, 8 months down the road, 2 years down the road, whatever it is. Within that timeline, there's still milestones you have to hit. So there are certain deadlines that the client expects, that your project manager expects. So that's very important. And the way I deal with it is, so if there's a big timeline, a big deadline, big time crunch, and it's a big problem that we're trying to solve, I like to break it down into smaller problems first and tackle those first. If you try to tackle something all at once, you're going to overwhelm yourself. You're going to get lost in it. It's going to be too difficult.
Yeah.
What I always tell my team, my managers is, break this down into smaller areas to tackle and work on those areas. And you actually get a better sense of accomplishment if you're finishing smaller tasks that then lead up to like the bigger task at hand, right? And you just feel better. The client feels better that, okay, this big task is broken down to like, let's say 10 subtasks, and I got 5 of those subtasks done, which means you're 50% of the way there. So that gives them confidence that, you're doing something and we're going to hit that timeline.
Okay. And what is some advice that you would like wish you known, or like say you had a time portal and you could go back to like when you were joining your workforce and coding and all that stuff? What is one piece of advice that you'd give to yourself?
I think networking is probably the most important piece of advice I would give. When I was in school, to be honest, I was pretty good at networking. I've always been fairly good at that. I actually wasn't the smartest guy ever, but I was really good at managing relationships, making networking with people, making friends, getting to know people. It's super important, right? Because you can be the smartest person, let's say the smartest developer in the world, but if you don't have the skills to maintain relationships, create relationships, be someone people want to be around, it's actually really important in the workplace to be liked. I know it's kind of like a weird thing to say, but just the way human nature is, right? People want to work with people who they like to work with.
Yeah, you don't want to work with someone like bum.
Exactly, right? You want to work with someone who's like thinks they're smarter than everyone else and showing off, or is arrogant. You want to be humble, you want to be understanding, you want to be nice, but you also want to be firm, be confident in yourself, and just get along with people. I found that you don't have to be the smartest person to be able to succeed in any career that you choose. You just have to be really good at being a people person, maintaining relationships, networking, getting to know as many people as you can, and just do stuff like that.
Okay. And if you could give yourself, if you could like say someone's trying to get into like coding and like general coding with world, what is one piece of advice that you'd give them?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing there is admitting when you don't know something. That's super important, because everyone starts out as fresh graduate, joining the workplace, and no one, like when I hire a new graduate, I don't expect them to know really anything, to be honest, right? I know they went to school, I know they got like those kind of skills, but they don't have the work experience, so I don't expect them to know much. And I appreciate it when they do come out and say, I don't know how to do this, can you help me? Or what's the process to do this way, or is this the best way to do it? And you ask those questions, and if you're in a company with a good culture, everyone will be willing to help you. They'll be willing to provide the guidance to you, because at most companies, they know that the younger people at the company are going to be be there forever. They're going to be taking over the company in the future, right? So it's good to train them. And it's good to have people who are willing to admit that they don't know something and are willing to learn. I think that's another skill set. You ask me what else I look for in someone as a candidate. I also look for someone who's willing to learn, willing to
have like an open mindset,
willing to learn, willing to hear out things, willing to try new things as well, and just really be like that sponge that can gather all the information that they can.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kunal, for meeting with me. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. This is really cool. If you have any more questions, feel free to text me, email me. I'm happy to answer anything else.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, Devin. Bye.